Hello everyone, you're watching Can You See Fish, and welcome back to another episode of Thomas and Friends Ranked. It's been a month, I think, since I've done one of these. Obviously, the big classic episode ranking still coming, but I did just want to get this one out, mostly because my opinions are going to change once I've seen the episodes, and if I don't do this one now, then if I do it after the big ranking, the problem's going to be that it's just going to be me regurgitating the same things. Whereas if I do it before, some of my opinions will change when I rewatch the episode. So do keep that in mind. That's the same for all of the series that I've already ranked. My opinions have changed. I think I've said it before in another video, but these tier list videos are going to be outdated very soon as the new video comes out, in fact. So we're going to start off with Series 7 this time. A very underrated series, in my opinion. I really like it. More than Series 5, very controversial. But yeah, I do really like Series 7. And I'm expecting there to be quite a few good episodes that I like in this one. And we're starting off well with Emily's new coaches, which I think is great. It's a brilliant introduction. I think that Emily is a great character, and I don't really have a favourite version of her personality. I do like her in this. I like her Series 7, the kind of kind and compassionate one. But I also like her more stubborn attitude in like the Hit Era and Nitrogen. So I really like this episode. I think it introduces Emily really well. Obviously Oliver has quite a big role in this, which I think is nice. I know originally it was meant to be Toby, but they did give it to Oliver, and I think that was a pretty interesting choice to throw him into another episode, especially because he was a secondary character and he already had his own episode. So, but yeah, I really enjoy it. I think the story at the time was something that we hadn't seen before, if I'm not mistaken. The whole New Engine gets Annie and Clarabelle and Thomas gets angry. He'd been angry with New Engines before, I think in Thomas and Stepney. But then obviously after this one, we got Thomas and the New Engine in Series 9. And The Great Discovery with Stanley in between Series 11 and 12. But yeah, I think this was the first time we saw that trope, if you will. And I think it works quite well here. It's got a nice ending. And I do really like Michael Angelis' voice for Emily. Percy Gets It Right is one that I'm just going to say is okay. Visually, this is one of the best episodes of the series. Story-wise, this one relies a bit too much on convenience of what characters do. The Fat Controller is really out of character in this one. He doesn't care when Percy informs him of the damaged bit of track. He just says it doesn't matter, it's safe enough, without even checking. Obviously, we see the same thing come from Gordon, but that makes more sense. He's not in charge of the railway, obviously. So yeah, it does seem quite out of character for the Fat Controller to do that, but visually, the episode's very good. There's the scene in Misty Valley are great. The crash is quite good. There's the ending scene where Percy brings Thomas back, and it's like the sun's shining. The sun's just beginning to rise, I should say. And yeah, it's really good. It's a really visually stunning episode. Story-wise, not so good. So yeah, it's okay. Bill, Ben and Fergus is one that I don't care for. This is kind of just supporting the I don't like Bill and Ben thing. I don't hate Bill and Ben. I just think that after like Series 5, they really did get ruined and got screwed over by the writing. And this is another episode. There is no reason for them to hate Fergus to the point that they just do the complete opposite of what he says. And the thing is, Fergus isn't much better. He is slightly annoying, not to the extent that like he gets buried under the rocks, but yeah, I don't like any of the characters really in this episode. Bill and Ben are annoying. Fergus is annoying. I know a lot of people are like upset that Fergus never came back after this series. I don't know, because obviously, a lot of the characters got really butchered in the Hit Era, but Fergus had like a crappy character to begin with, so I don't know if they'd have been able to make it much worse, to be honest. But yeah, there we go, Bill, Ben and Fergus. The rock slide is cool visually, though. The old bridge, it's this one's going to be controversial. For anyone who hasn't been around here for long, I really like the old bridge. It might be a favourite, genuinely. I'm going to put it in... Screw it, it's in favourites. I love the old bridge. I really, really love the old bridge. I think that it is more... So the problem that people have with it is that Scarlowe kind of acts like a child, but I think it makes more sense to look at it, not even as happening very early on in the Sodor days, but actually as Scarlowe realising his age and being more weary. The key personality trait of Scarlowe, being brave, is kind of put to the test here, and he's tested in that way. But then when Rhaenyra is in danger, he doesn't even flinch. He goes straight away. And I think that it really does kind of... It shows that Scarlowe is still the character. He has this obstacle, but in the end, he overcomes it. It's also not like in the Hit era, where he's scared of the most stupid things, like the noise at the wharf or something. This bridge is something that could have potentially just ended his life completely. And I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a really good episode, and I've always thought it. When I joined the Thomas community, however many years ago, like the adult Thomas community, I was shocked by how much this episode was hated, because I always really enjoyed it, and it was always a favourite of mine whenever I watched the Pulling Together DVD. But yeah, Edward's Brass Band, another good one for me. I know Series 7 is just... I don't know if I'd call it underrated. I'd call it overhated, to be honest. So many people just don't consider this classic, which if you're in the US, I understand. You got the bad Michael Brandon narration. You got the bad Hartshorn, well, not the bad Hartshorn music, but the mediocre Hartshorn music. I understand that, but stuff like this is just this is a good episode to me on different levels. It's, once again, we hadn't got a proper Edward episode where he was really negatively affected. He always kind of always shrugged it off. But I think that the fact that the brass band does mean so much to him, it adds more depth to his character. That, you know, I love Edward. I love Edward as a character. I love his fearless and just he's old but he doesn't care kind of thing. But I think that episodes like this that does do more in the way of character growth and, once again, overcoming challenges, which is what a lot of Series 7 is about. It's about characters' personalities being put to the test, and I really, really appreciate that. But a lot of the time it's more in an emotional or kind of psychological way, rather than something like, say, Series 5 or Series 2, where it's always a more physical, something that's actually happening to them that they have to overcome, rather than something in their head. And if I'm sounding a bit insane because I'm talking about, like, characters' personalities who are just talking steam engines, I'm sorry, but I really like it, this brass band. I really like the old bridge. I really like a lot of these episodes, and I do kind of get a bit miffed off when I see people just slandering them. I mean, I obviously don't care. You can dislike these episodes if you want, but I think that it does take... If you take a bit more time to look deeper beneath the surface, as opposed to just Edward acts like a wimp in this episode and he gets really depressed for no reason, there's more to it. And yeah, I really like it. It has a good crash. The scene with Bertie getting stuck is good too. What's the Matter with Henry is one that I can't... It's okay. Actually, I'm going to say it's one that I don't really care for. Not for the reason that people normally say. I don't mind that Henry's ill in this episode. This is not because of Special Cole or any of the crap that they brought back in the Hit era. This is something different. I quite simply don't really care for this one because it's not that interesting. Henry still tries, which is of course good. We see more of Emily in this one, being the kind of motherly figure, which is, once again, really nice. And it's nice to see that even though she's not been on Sodor for long, she's still kind of been able to fit in and find a place in with the other engines. And for as much as Duck is my favourite character, I am glad that she was on the Steam team instead of Duck. Just, yeah, that's probably contradictory, but that's going to be a lot of this list contradictory because it's just not what normal people say. But yeah, that's what's the matter with Henry. James and the Queen of Sodor is another one that I really like. I'm going to put that in favourites. This, for me, is one of James's best episodes. This is better than... probably the best James episode that we got since the Series 1, James the Red Engine saga, I'd probably say. You know, Troublesome Trucks, James and the Express, all that stuff. This is probably the best one, in my opinion, that we got since then. It's got really good visuals once again. So much of Series 7's visuals are just so good. And it's once again kind of this endurance story. And it is, you do feel happy for James when he gets through it, when he kind of beats Gordon, even though there's still the funny bit at the end where he does get dirty after all of the trying and everything. I still really, really, really like this episode. The Refreshment Lady's tea shop is... oh, man. I'm gonna have to put it... I'll put it in okay. If anything, it's just the Skarloey Railway visuals does put it above the rest. But overall, this is quite a dull story. It's nice to see the Refreshment Lady again. I think that there was certainly a bit of looking back through the history of the show and seeing old Peter, Sam and the Refreshment Lady. That's a Series 4 episode. We could maybe do something else with them. So I do like that. Outside of that, it's just a kind of pretty episode and not much else. Spotless Record. Great. I'm gonna put it below Emily's New Coaches. There is a very ham-fisted moral with this one, which I'm not such a big fan of. There's the whole ending, which is very, very cheesy and kind of cringy too. But the crash is very good. You feel bad for Arthur when he loses his Spotless Record, but like I say, it's mainly the crash for this episode. This is a crash that just... it's one of the best of the show. It's a very underrated one. Not many people talk about this one. And yeah, I don't understand why. Toby's Windmill is another favourite of mine. Let's talk about the way that visuals and music are. So, mainly music, because I've talked about the visuals already. The music in Series 7 is my favourite of the entire classic era. For me. I love the music in Series 7. The music in this episode especially, you've kind of got the continuous one. You've got the new version of Toby's theme at the start, which transfers into the Storm theme, and then the Aftermath theme afterwards, and they're all really good. Toby, once again, showing the initiative that he has, and once again, this is more of a mental thing to overcome for him, that his favourite location on Sodor is gone, and there's nothing that he can really do, but there is, and when you see him find that out, it's really good. It's a really good episode. I really do love it. Bad Day at Castle Lock is instantly going to favourites. I love the visuals. I love the Scottish twins. I think their bickering is funny, unlike Bill and Ben. There's the bit with Harvey crossing the causeway, and that's once again really good. And this is just making me want to watch Series 7. Like, at the minute, I've probably got about 5 more episodes of Series 5 to watch, and then I've got Series 6, but I just want to watch Series 7 making this video. But yeah, that's that. Reneus and the Roller Coaster is bad. Reneus and the Roller Coaster is a poor episode, to be completely honest. This is the sort of thing that I could have seen them doing in the Hit era. I think what makes it worse is that you have another Runaway Narrow Gauge episode that uses like the same sets and the same camera angles. You've got Duncan and the Runaway Elephant, or just the Runaway Elephant, and that's such a good, funny, well-paced episode where you're building up to the runaway. This just isn't. Reneus acts out of character in this one, and unlike the old bridge where it's justified, I don't know why he gets so irritated that he can't make the Children's Day really special. I don't understand it at all. Salty Stormy Tale is okay. It's not as good as Salty Secret. The Storm visuals are good. There's a lot of Storm episodes in this one. I'm not going to go into talking about the fan theory that all of the Storm episodes take place at the same time, because it's been done to death. But yeah, a lot of Storm episodes. This is a good one that shows off the Storm visuals good. Probably the best episode visually this series. Story is not so great for me personally. It's but yeah, the scene with the tramp steamer or the ship, those are some really cool shots looking through kind of into the helm of the ship with the captain and the midshipman. Those are really good scenes. But yeah, Salty Stormy Tale. Snow Engine. This is going in first place. I adore Snow Engine. One of my favourites of the entire show. I can't see this changing. I absolutely love Snow Engine. The Christmas visuals. This is a much better Christmas episode than the actual Christmas episode, which is Not So Hasty Puddings from this series. I much prefer this one. There's a really feel good ending to it too. The crash is good. Oliver and Toad are just two of the best characters in the show, and I'm arguably more sad that they didn't appear than in the hit era than I am with Duck, because I feel like Duck would have been a character who they would have ruined the personality of, whereas Oliver and Toad have kind of got such strong, developed characters that it would have been hard to ruin them. But yeah, Snow Engine is really good. Something Fishy. It's okay. It's probably there. The crash is really... I don't like the crash in this episode, if I'm being perfectly honest. We see Thomas go over the edge, but I think that it would have been better to have seen him actually fall into the water rather than just going over the edge. It's kind of similar to Diesel's, but I think it's in World's Strongest Engine, I should say. Diesel's in World's Strongest Engine. But it's kind of... It's less intense than that. There are some funny moments in this one. I do like seeing Arthur again. The fishing village set. This is the best it ever looked. It did not look this good again. Not even in Series 5 did it look as good as this. But yeah, that's something fishy. The runaway elephant is up next. That is going to go... These are getting tough now. It's probably just slightly better than Edward's Brass Band. This is a really good Duncan episode. And like I said earlier, there's the build-up to the runaway. You see stuff like Duncan leaves the brake van behind. There's the kind of... I don't know what theme you call it. And it's kind of like that something's going to happen theme. And and then it all builds up to it, and then the elephant runs away, and it's falling into the lake is really good, and it's really, really picturesque. The whole elephant park set, I really like it. It's just a good episode. I don't think there's much more that I can say about it. Peace and Quiet is quite mediocre for me. It is better than What's the Matter with Henry, but Murdoch needed more personality for me. Series 7 had such a good cast of characters, whether I like them or not. Even though I don't like Fergus, he did have a strong personality that was well developed in his 2 episodes. I think that Murdoch only had this 1 episode to shine in, really did kind of damage him as a character because he didn't have the extra episode to build on. Arthur's first episode, you get the spotless record, but then in his second episode, Something Fishy, you get the extra layer with his love of fish, I suppose. With Fergus, you get the do it right thing in Bill, Ben and Fergus, and then in Fergus Breaks the Rules, you get his kind of fear of not being where he loves. Murdoch doesn't get that, and I think that makes this episode somehow drift further down. Harvey being a noisy engine is not something that I really see. Salty I get. Harvey is a weird engine to pick to be a loud character. It very much feels like they just needed to get another one of the Series 6 newbies into a Series 7 episode, and they were just like, screw it, put Harvey in there. Get Angelus to give him a new voice too that he didn't have in the previous series. But yeah, Peace and Quiet is not one that I'm a particular fan of. Although they do use Toby's cowcatch as well in this episode. Not many episodes do that. Fergus Breaks the Rules, man. This episode is... I'm gonna put it here. It's better than Bill, Ben and Fergus, but I think that's more because Fergus is less annoying in this one, and you can feel more for him, because unlike Bill and Ben, Diesel isn't just irritating, he is a full-on menace, and I would argue that this is probably the last time that we saw Diesel as that menace that he was in the classic era, where he full-on lies to Fergus and gets him sent away, similarly to what happens to Duck in Pop Goes the Diesel, I've just realised. And yeah, the scenes of Fergus at night, the one of him going across Castle Lock Causeway, the actual kind of area that he stops in, those are all really good. And it once again has a very nice ending where Thomas finds him and rescues him. Bulgy Rides Again is an episode that it makes me so happy that it exists. I can't say it's in my favourites, but this is probably the episode that I'm most grateful existing out of the entire series. Series 7, that is. Bulgy was so underused in the Railway series, and then in turn the TV series, that I feel like he needed another episode. Some people say, nah, he should have just been left there as this background character who was always the chicken coop. I disagree, and I am glad that he got his happy ending with the vegetable stand, even if it wasn't forever. It's nice to have episodes that spend more time in the other parts of Sodor that aren't the rails. Obviously, we get to see some sets from different angles, like Rolf's Castle Station, but we see it from the roadside, and there's some other little ones like that. Tom Tipper makes a cameo in this one, and yeah, it's just a good episode. Harold and the Flying Horse is okay. It's alright. I think that it very much was made as more of a necessity to have a Harold episode, because this was, I'm going to say, the point that Harold became really popular. Obviously, he shows up in the Series 8 intro from the following series. He had Bad Day for Harold Helicopter the series before. He had the Harold the Helicopter song in Series 5 before that, and he was one of the few characters outside of the main, I would say 7, but Edward doesn't appear, so 6, to appear in Thomas and the Magic Railroad. So yeah, this was when Harold was kind of reaching that popularity. But for what it's worth, it's a fun little episode. The whole thing with Pegasus getting stuck in the ditch is very amusing, and yeah, I like it. The grand opening is pretty naff, to be honest. I'm going to put it there. It's one that I don't really care for. Oh, actually, I'm going to put it below Bill, Ben and Fergus. This is one where I think that, so unlike the old bridge, where Scarlo's personality is understandable, this one is just kind of what's happening. I don't understand why the Fat Controller is so angry with Scarlowy for being late, when it's the workmen who are cutting down the trees or whatever they're doing that causes it. At the same time, it kind of feels like I'm stabbing myself in the back by putting this here, because it has the red balloon in it, and I love James and the Red Balloon, and I love the Red Balloon song, and I love everything to do with the Red Balloon, but it's just not very good. I don't think we needed an episode where the Red Balloon had a crash, to be honest. Best Dressed Engine. Up next, I am going to say this is a really good episode, not one that's not talked about enough. This is one in the same vein as Gordon and the Famous Visitor from Series 3, or A Better View for Gordon in Series 5, and I would probably say it is as good as both of those episodes. The scenes with Gordon pulling the express with the banner wrapped around him, it's very funny. It is an amusing episode. We get to see Murdoch again, but it feels like they just threw him in there for the sake of him being in there. Like, you could have had any other character be there. But yeah, Best Dressed Engine, quite good. Gordon and Spencer. I'm going to put it in favourites. I've got to put it above the old bridge. I've just got to. But I am putting it below A Bad Day at Castle Lock. Spencer is probably the best, and this has been said to death already. Spencer is probably the best non-Audrey character to ever be introduced into the series. He is such a good, well-written character, and his rivalry with Gordon starts here and continues for the next, 13 series after this? And it's a very enjoyable episode. Spencer's made the fool of. You see how all the engines just lose respect for him, which I find is really funny and very accurate to what happens in real life when people make one mistake. But, yeah. Gordon and Spencer, it's probably the most universally loved Series 7 episode, I'd say. And that's for a good reason. Not So Hasty Puddings is one that I just don't get on with. This is a boring episode. It might actually be below Reneus and the Roller Coaster. In fact, I'm going to say it is. See, it feels like that they include Elizabeth again, and they don't use her properly. I don't feel like we should be seeing how she's now friends with Thomas because he was the one who rescued her, not still being horrible to him. The crash is very underwhelming in this one. I do not like the crash with Elizabeth in the snow. It's nice. I'm glad we do get to see Terence again, because obviously he doesn't appear for the next God knows how many series. I think it's like he reappears in The Great Discovery, so that's like 4 series. Yeah, 4 series without him. But other than that, very poor. The visuals in this one are not enjoyable at all. I don't like the winter episodes where they give it this harsh grey sky. I much prefer the kind of clearness and frosty kind of look as opposed to the miserable look that is probably more realistic to what winter actually is like. But I think that on the Sodor, winter is much better when it's not like that. Trusty Rusty is okay. It's probably pretty better than Fergus Breaks the Rules, but below Percy Gets It Right. Scene on the Bridge, very good. I don't think we needed another Duncan Gets It Wrong story. I think that the Runaway Elephant would have been good enough. And the fact that this is kind of Rusty's story, in a way, this series, he doesn't do much in it. He says Duncan, but other than that, there really isn't that much. But yeah, it's just okay. And the last classic episode ever. 3 cheers for Thomas. I don't think I can put it any higher than here. You would hope to have a big epic send-off. 3 cheers for Thomas isn't that. But in a way, I'm glad that it is how it is. It's just a nice, self-contained story with Thomas on his branch line and Thomas racing Bertie and Thomas helping people. This is what Thomas should be about. And this has just got, once again, a really nice feeling to it. This is a good end to the classic era. Perhaps not the best end it could have had, but for what it's worth, I think that this is quite a good ending. And that's it. That's Series 7 ranked. There are going to be some opinions that are going to make people angry in this one, particularly with this. Some people are not going to like this. But ranked from worst to best, we have got Not So Hasty Puddings, Reneus the Roller Coaster, The Grand Opening, Bill, Ben and Fergus, What's the Matter with Henry, Peace and Quiet, The Refreshment Ladies Tea Shop, Harold and the Flying Horse, Something Fishy, Fergus Breaks the Rules, 3 Cheers for Thomas, Trusty Rusty, Percy Gets It Right, Salty Stormy Tale, Edward's Brass Band, Best Dressed Engine, The Runaway Elephant, The Spotless Record, Emily's New Coaches, Bulgy Rides Again, Toby's Windmill, James and the Queen of Sodor, The Old Bridge, Gordon and Spencer, Bad Day at Castle Lock, and Snow Engine. Thank you all for watching. I'm trying to get the big video out that I'm doing. It's taking longer than I want it to be, but it is still coming. I'm still working towards it. I'm still taking notes. I'm going to start writing the script soon. So yeah, stay tuned for it. Hopefully it'll be out before the end of the year. No promises though. You've been watching Can You See Fish? Make sure to like this video if you've enjoyed it in any way, and subscribe to the channel to see more. And until next time, goodbye.